Hey, church family, thanks for joining us for today's Daily Connection video. We're continuing to talk about how serving God often means that we have to serve with courage. And sometimes that courage doesn't always come from within, but it's a courage that we find that we get when we rely on the Lord. And so I'm going to pick up where Brother Brent left off yesterday in Joshua chapter 1, as God is calling his people to go and go to the place that he's called them. He begins to give them some specifics about where that is, and there's certainly some impact that comes with those specifics. So let's look. Joshua chapter 1, we're going to read verses 4 and 5. It says, your territory will be from the wilderness and your territory will be from the wilderness and Lebanon to the great river, and the Euphrates River, all the land of the Hittites, and west to the Mediterranean Sea. No one will be able to stand against you as long as you live. I will be with you just as I was with Moses. I will not leave you or abandon you. So God has called the Israelites to, after Moses' death, this person has led them for quite some time, led them out of Egypt. He's now led them through the wilderness and for 40 years waiting for so many people to die off because, again, they wouldn't pursue what God had called them to at Jericho yet. And now Moses has passed. They have a new leader in Joshua, and God is just reaffirming that covenant with them, reaffirming with them that he is going to give them this land. But as he gives them this land, and they're listening to this, they're thinking about the people who are going to exist in this land, the Hittites and so many others, people who were going to be hostile to the Israelites. These people didn't want the Israelites to come in and take their land, but God is telling them, hey, I'm going to give you this land. And so as they're hearing this, certainly they're thinking about the battles that are to come. They're thinking about the lives that could be lost. They're thinking about the hard work that's going to have to be put in to take this land that God has given them. They're called to do this thing, but certainly there's some fear that would exist. But notice in verse 5, God says, no one will be able to stand against you as long as you live. And then, so, hey, no one will be able to stand against you. And then second, I will be with you just as I was with Moses. I will not leave you or abandon you. And so they can then look back at Moses' life and they can see how God was with Moses throughout all of their history that they can really remember. Since Moses had been their leader, while they haven't always had everything they wanted, that was usually because of their own fear. God did not ever abandon them. God was with them throughout. God delivered them over and over and over again. He provided for them. He gave them everything that they could possibly need. And whenever there were enemies to be defeated, God helped them defeat those enemies with Moses as their leader. And so now God is making this promise saying, hey, look at all that I did with Moses and have courage, because just as I was with Moses, I will be with you. And certainly that would have given some courage to these Israelites as they look and they see that all God had done. They can look and say, hey, I see that these lands that we have to conquer, that they could be great. There's going to be a lot to do here, but God says he's going to be with us, and just as he's always been with us. And so we can have courage in knowing that. God calls you and I to do great things as well. He calls us to make disciples in the Great Commission, to go to the ends of the earth and do so. And that at times can be intimidating. That at times takes great courage, as the world around us is really anti-Christ. The world around us wants nothing to do with the Lord. The world around us treats us poorly because of that. And we're called to go to that world who wants nothing to do with us and be a light to it. And I don't know about you, but there are times when I have fear over that. I have fear over conversations that I need to have with lost people and worried about how they may respond. I have fears for my children that one day may live in a place that is not good to Christians. But here's what I know. Just as the Israelites could look at how God was in Moses' life and find courage there, we can look back on Scripture and see how God was with more than just Moses, right? He was with Abraham. He was with Jacob. He was with Isaac. He was with Moses. He was with judge after judge, King David. He was with Jesus himself. He is with Peter. He is with Paul. He was with James. He was with Timothy. He was with John. We can look over and over and over again and see that God never has abandoned his people. That doesn't mean that things weren't hard. It just means that he had not left them. And we can have confidence that he will not leave us, that what he has called us to go and do, he is going to give us what we need to get that done. And so we can have courage. You and I can have courage. We can speak to those who God calls us to speak to. We can go to the places that God has called us to go because He is by our side and He has not abandoned us. So, a couple of questions that I want you to look at. Really, one question, and then the other is just an action. First question is, when you look at what God has called you to do, what are things that bring you great fear? All right. What are some things about God's call on your life that brings you great fear? Take a moment, list those things, whatever they may be. And then the second thing I want you to do is just think back on all that God has done for His people in Scripture and all that He's done for you. Take a moment and pray. Pray and offer up those things that you're afraid of. Offer them up to God and ask Him for great courage. And as He gives you that courage, let's be obedient to the call that He's placed on our lives, and let's go and let's tell. Church family, I hope that you will take those things seriously. I hope you will truly offer up those fears to God because He gives courage that is like none other, and that you will go and do all that He's called you to do. And as you do that, we want you to know that we love you and we're praying for you.